All right, there we go.
We're live.
You're live. Mitch, how's it going, buddy? How'd the day go today?
Very good. Today was a particularly big Zoom day for me. Spent quite a bit of time on Zoom meeting with players, and we did a little podcast this morning, which was awesome. So it's been just went out for a little walk and made it back to the computer for right in the nick of time. How about you?
Yeah, same. Yeah, it is good. It's weird times right now, though, man. Just with obviously no ice, we're not at the office. I know you're going to the gym a little bit. I try to get in at least once or twice a week to get to the office. But yeah, with no ice and not being able to get on the ice with people, it's obviously really, really weird. But yeah, it is what it is, right? So it's it's a lot of like video calls, Zoom calls, things like that, which can be fine, but at times can be, obviously a pain in the butt for sure, man.
Yeah.
How's it been going online right now with with basically working with players like virtually and stuff like that, like as far as that interaction and I guess the other thing too is on the back end, how have players been kind of fulfilling tasks and finishing workouts? So they've been pretty on cue and pretty dialed in on it?
Yeah, so that's been it's been really good overall. I think that's been the most recent learning curve for online training. Because again, before all this stuff, we had these ideas of doing some stuff online, virtually trying to help people kind of outside of the parameters of London. And then throughout the initial stages of COVID, it was great. We were able to spend a lot of time on making video content and really believing in how we were able to deliver those programs, and that was fantastic. And then more recently, we've been working on strategies to keep people engaged, and we're reaching out more often. We're setting the expectations a little bit more clearly at the beginning of programs with just saying, we want to provide you with the same or as close to the same experience as possible online versus in person. And what that means is that we need to have a two-way communication street. In the gym, we see you and we're able to just kind of bring things up and say, hey, look, we're going to work a little more on this and, do this a little bit differently. But what we need to do now when we're virtually is you need to initiate the conversation sometimes as well. So take a video of yourself doing an exercise, send it in. And since we've done that, it is actually pretty amazing how quickly it's turned people around, just understanding what our expectations are of them. And that's one thing I think in the beginning, when we started doing more virtual stuff, we had the actual programs laid out really well and it was awesome. And the people that were just immediately bought in and it was great. But then there were those, few people that I don't think it's not they weren't bought in. It's just that maybe they forgot or whatever it is, or even if they were doing it, but they weren't checking the workouts off. So it looked like to us on our end that they were not doing it. So by setting those expectations at the beginning of the program, like, look, okay, so here's what our job is as strength and conditioning coaches. We're going to lay out a program for you. Once you kind of tell us what your goals are, we evaluate your training experience and where you're at in the year and in your training and in your training age. But then your responsibilities are to stay in touch with us on a weekly basis. We expect you to reach out to us and ask us questions and send us videos. And we don't want to always be poking you to tell us how everything is going. We want you to actively reach out to us and tell us how things are going. Even if everything's great, just reach out and say, hey, everything's going great this week. We want to hear from you. And that's made a huge difference. It's been great.
That's a big thing too, though, right? Is getting that, not always kind of trying to pull the questions in the comment and the like what players need and all that feedback, and having them being a little more interactive and a little bit more, I guess, taking a bit more of a proactive approach to their training too, right? And asking those questions when they have problems.
Right. Yeah. And I think it was as simple as, for the most part, just laying out those expectations in the beginning and say, hey, look, this is how things are going to work in terms of virtual training. And for you to get the most out of your training experience, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
And that's been good.
Oh, it makes sense for sure, man. And for those who are just checking in and stuff, obviously we got Mitch Stewart who's back. And if you've checked in the last couple of weeks, we moved it to Wednesday this week because there's a big tilt tomorrow night, Toronto and Montreal in our area. And I know a lot of people wanted to watch the game. And for us, it just worked out better scheduling wise. So unfortunately, if it didn't work for you, we apologize. But again, this will be broadcast, or it'll be up on YouTube and Facebook and things like that too. But we got Isaac Ratcliffe with us. He's just going to join us. We're going to get him on right now. And we're going to talk a little bit of hockey with him, obviously, and pick his brain a little bit. So I'll add him to the call here. And there's the
Mr. Ratcliffe.
Right there.
What's up, guys?
Big Greg.
Hey, how you doing?
Hear me?
Oh, yeah. Got you loud and clear.
Perfect.
Looking good, buddy. Good.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So, Ratty, how was that? So, for those who obviously Isaac Ratcliffe's joined the call, and Ratty, you're in Philly right now, right?
Yeah, I'm in Voorhees, just outside of Philly. It's where the Flyers practice facility is. So we just moved in here today. Season finished up a couple days ago. Sorted everything out back in Allentown. Now we just got down here today for a couple weeks just to make sure we're feeling healthy by the time we get home.
Oh, that's good. Now, the most of the guys or most of the prospects have to go back to Philly before they check out and go back home?
No, there's only a few of us here. A couple guys who are kind of like a couple bumps and bruises and stuff. Kind of figuring out everything else, and then there's a couple guys getting a feel for the area too that are still around here. But I know since Ontario's still locked down, the guys aren't really in a rush to get back home either. Oh. So I mean, yeah, everything down here is pretty opened up. I mean, a lot of the guys are double vaccinated already too, so a little bit more leeway with that too. And hopefully, once things start to open back up, we'll kind of crawl back into Ontario now.
Funny, man. Some guys have been talking. Yeah, some of the guys have been talking to you, like they've wrapped up NHL or AHL seasons. I'm like, don't come home. Like,
yeah, seriously. Even my family's like, as much as seriously, they're like, yeah, we want to see you, but like, you'd be better off stay there. Trust me.
Yeah,
but that's terrible back there. I can't even imagine what you guys have been going through. I went through it for a few months, but geez, I can't imagine still going through it now.
I know. I know. It's been a hike.
Yeah, for sure, man. How are you feeling anyway? How was the season? I know you had a bit of a bang up. Yeah, a bit of a bang up season for you, right?
Yeah, just a little one. No, this year, I mean, this year was a ton of fun and it was great getting back to playing again, but health-wise, this season sucked. It was terrible in that way.
Go through it a little bit. Like what happened, man? Because I was talking to Mitch about it a little bit. I heard a couple things, and Mitch kind of went through a couple of different things. Like, holy, really, that happened? No way.
Yeah. So it started off. I mean, I got into camp. I skated a few times here. I think there was like 30 guys here getting ready for camp. I think it was New Year's Eve, and it was probably like our fifth skate of being down here. And gotten like a ton of good feedback. They said, "Oh, like you looked really good at the start here. We could see how hard you worked in the off season." I came in, like 15 pounds heavier than I was last year. Faster, stronger. Like, and from what I heard on the outside, they said it was noticeable on the ice. So I was really excited to get started. New Year's Eve in the morning, I think we had like a little 3-on-3 tournament or something. And I went out in the first game, and it was like one of my last shifts out there or something. I like dove for a puck, and I landed on my chest awkwardly, and I didn't really think too much of it. I thought it was just kind of like a bump or a bruise, like just something kind of easy going. So I played one more shift that game. We got off for a flood, and I was just sitting on the bench waiting for the Zamboni, and I was like this is still kind of hurting. Like it felt almost like a rib out of place. And then the next game started. I went out for my first shift and then made the exact same play. Dove for a puck again. Actually, made a pretty nice play on the play, if I got to say so myself. I dove for the puck, spin-a-rama 360, and then sent the guy in a B-way. So I don't know what else you got to ask for. So I played out the rest of the shift. I got back to the bench. And I remember even saying to the guys on the bench, I was like, "Hey, I'll be right back. I got to go check this out." I thought I had like a rib out of place. I go in there, they'd crack my back or something. I'd be right back out there in 2 minutes. And then I get in the room and I can't catch my breath at all. Like I was standing there by the table and trying to take a deep breath, but I couldn't at all. So the trainers finally came over and they got me laid down and kind of calmed me down and settled me down a little bit. And then I was in a little bit of pain, but nothing too crazy. I drove from the practice rink where we were to the hospital in Philly, which was like a 30-minute drive.
Really?
Spent just a little bit of time there on my own, yeah. And then got an MRI done. They came back. They said I had a broken rib, or I guess the cartilage, whatever you can move at the bottom there, like that. So I broke they call it a broken rib. And then so it was that night. It was New Year's Eve that night, so we were kind of getting prepared to enjoy ourselves for a little bit. Remember, crack a bottle of champagne. Seriously, what was the deal there? Yeah, so we were still taking care of ourselves. I think we were back on the ice the next morning anyway. So I cracked a bottle of champagne or something like that. Like had my first drink or something. I was sitting there in the chair, and then it's like this thing. It's starting to hurt more and more. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Like, are they sure? Like, that's what they diagnosed me with, just a broken rib. I didn't know it was going to be this bad.
MRI. You got your MRI. You went home, and then this is where you're at now.
It's like, so I got the MRI done probably around noon or so. Drove myself home. By this time it's like 6 p.m. and I'd been sitting there just gone through my day, and then sitting there, and it just pain kept getting worse and worse, like literally minute by minute, just worse and worse. And then it got to the point I'm calling my trainer and telling him what's going on, and he's like, okay, do this, and he's helping me out on the phone, and calling him 30 minutes later saying it's still getting worse, and it got to the point I couldn't sit down, I couldn't lay down because I felt like I was suffocating. So I was standing up, and I was laying on my knees on a couch with my hands like this. Is the only way I could get comfortable. Still call my trainer, and I started like throwing up like every 5 minutes from probably from midnight to like 5:30 in the morning or so. And then my trainer had to drive. He was out in New Jersey, like kind of on the water there. So he had to drive and come pick me up about an hour away. And I remember sitting there, like counting the seconds until he got there, just in so much pain. And then, so he came and grabbed me, and then I think rushed to the ER, got there around like 6 in the morning, and I was still throwing up and stuff, and still could barely even stand up. I couldn't sit down because I felt like I was suffocating. And they got me in there and got me on the bed and everything, and then got an x-ray done, and saw a picture of my lung, and you can see my one lung was there, and my other lung was just like a flat line. Just completely gone. Yeah. So
they didn't see that in the initial imaging, or it didn't even. Wow.
No. So I
That's
mean,
wild,
it was a wild day. Yeah. And then spent the next 2 weeks in the hospital. I mean, strapped to a wall with a couple like tubes hanging out of my chest, and I mean, I thank God I had the trainers here in Philly, because I mean, I don't know what would have happened. I mean, they took great care of me, and that was the longest day of my life for sure.
No kidding. How long was that night?
You went in NHL, like training camp, doing well, everything's good, everything's going well, to like being strapped on the
wall. So it was a tough day, but then I made it through there. I mean, they took care of me really well in the hospital too, and I mean, everyone was really supportive of me through there. So I think my parents were definitely a lot more stressed out than I was, not being able to come down here and make sure I was okay. But they were having a tough time. But I mean, Christ, I got out of there 2 weeks later, and then the recovery was, I mean, I think, I don't know, another 6 weeks or so after the surgery, and so it was a long time. But and then it was just the next freaking however many months, 3 months since then, it's just been riddled just with injuries, kind of some stemming from it, some on their own, some just not playing for a while, same thing. So I mean, it was a tough year. I've never had to battle any adversity like that ever before in my career, but to go through something like that, I mean, got to take some positives out of it. I mean, like, hopefully it never has to happen again, but I mean, I know what I have to do to recover from something as harsh as that. I can recover from something easier, so it's take the positives out of it.
You bring up a good point. I know it sucked at the time, and you're probably like, holy smokes, this is crazy, but that kind of attitude, Ratty, is unbelievable, man, because you're right. You're just like, and throw it at me, I'll take it, right? Like a coach yells at you, I had a collapsed lung last month, I'm fine.
Seriously. Exactly. I can do anything now. I'm invincible now. Holy Christ. Totally. We just moved into our new apartment. It's me and Tyson Forrester. It's got no AC's broken, so we're leaking. It's like 89 degrees, 90 degrees in Voorhees right now.
I love it.
You're still way more comfortable than you were on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, seriously. Just a little bit.
Hey, it's a joke. No AC, it's a joke.
Oh my God.
And now you're like overall though, how you feeling health wise? Like, you pretty good? Ankle's a bit just getting like kind of getting your ankle looked at and getting a little bit of rehab, and that's it.
Yeah, I went out with an ankle injury at the end of the year. I mean, nothing too serious, and I mean, it's been a couple weeks since then. The recovery is going to be quick, so I mean, just take care of it now before I come home and be 100% by the time I get my summer program started.
Good. Oh, it's good, man. Very good.
Mm.
Awesome. I wanted to chat with you a little bit, obviously, about your season and things like that. But I want to get into the draft and stuff like that as well. But you just touched on it, so I wanted to hammer this a bit. But you're coming back now off of your second year of pro, and even this year, I mean, you only play, you didn't play a lot of games, but you had some numbers. You played well, and from what I'm seeing, just on stats, and so for you coming off that season, what are you looking for in the off season? Like, what are some things that and you don't have to be like 100% specific to you, like start carving yourself, whatever that you want to do. But like you come off an off season, because I think a lot of young kids come off off seasons and they're like, I don't really know what to work on. And it's so for you, what are you kind of looking at as far as I played in these games, I played well, I had a good camp, I got to get better at this and this and this. I got to, if I want to play at that next level, I got to get better at this and this and this. But what are some things for you that like you see now as a second year pro that you're like, I got to really focus on these little areas here?
Yeah, like I mean, coming into last year, I'll start like,
yeah,
I think the most thing I was worried about probably was the speed of the game, being able to keep up. But of course, that's something you kind of get used to as you play through it. And
totally.
You can honestly, you can't even really prepare yourself at the start of the year for that first game of how fast it's really going to be until you put yourself in that game. So I mean, the strength obviously is number one. Like I've always been kind of like a tall, lanky guy. So I mean, the strength in the gym is pretty much what's going to take you to that next level. But there's a lot of other areas to my game too, like puck protection, making sure you're keeping the puck away from guys and putting it to an area where, I mean, only you can touch it. And I mean, the other parts of the game are kind of stuff that you take from junior, things that you learn with the puck, without the puck. I mean, reads that you make off the ice, that's all stuff that you find in the season. But I mean, a lot of the stuff I'm focusing on this summer is pretty much the same as last summer. I came in pretty strong, and the skating was getting better, and I was excited to start. And I think this summer is going to be a lot of the same stuff. And then hopefully next year is just staying healthy right off the hop and getting going right away. But yeah, so it's going to be a lot of strength stuff and a lot of edge work kind of thing off on the ice, and making sure my skating's up to par by the time I get going next August.
I know that can be a big thing for a lot of that. Like you said, you've always been kind of on the taller, lankier side, and working on being smooth on your skates is a huge thing for, I think, those tall guys. Like a lot of times it's tough for the bigger guys to look smooth on the ice. And I think that's something you've always done a really good job of. But that's no accident either. There's a lot of work that's going into that.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with Mitch. I think like you're obviously a really good skater, and there's a lot of kids out there that do pop. Like you're always like, a taller kid. Then all of a sudden, I remember it was like, 1 year, 2 years, like it was crazy how much you like kind of popped, right? But you had a good base and a good foundation when you were like our size, and then when
back when I was 5 or 6 years old, yeah.
Yeah, 5 or 6 years old. It's about right.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, so like I think that's a big thing though, right? You had a good foundation, and then when you did kind of lengthen out and got taller, which is awesome, then your foundation was good. But for young kids out there, I think it's really important to like but like work on that off ice fitness, because you're getting to a point now where you're kind of done growing, maybe not, but now you're going to start to fill out your last couple of years. You even said you put on 20 pounds, which is huge, right? But your frame can handle that. And that's a big piece of it. And to Mitch's point, like you are a great skater, but when you think about it, man, you get up and down the ice, no problem. Your speed's good, but that great skating is good. Like you talk about edges, like how important are those edges when you're in battles, when you're down low, when you're like protecting the puck and, cutting the net, things like that. Like when you started playing pro, how much different was that than junior? Like for any young kids listening out there, like how much different was cutting the net, playing a one-on-one, getting into a puck battle down low? How different was that from junior to pro?
Well, I mean, any kid can skate straight up and down the ice at 100 miles an hour. I mean, really anyone in the world can do that. You stand on skates for a while. I mean, you can get used to that, but the toughest parts of the game are those quick area races where it's a puck in the corner and you're at the hash marks and the D's in front of the net and you got to get there first. And getting that body position on that guy to make sure that you get the puck and you keep the puck coming out of that situation. So it's all the little parts of the game that you have to work on. And that's all stuff we focus on in the summer. And doesn't all relate directly to it, but whether it's in a gym, just doing quick movement stuff, or like going out on the field and doing running stuff or band work, make sure your hips are getting stronger every day. And that's still stuff we work on in the season every day and as much as we can. But a lot of the stuff indirectly relates to what exactly we're doing on the ice, all the stuff we do in the summer. And it's crazy how much it actually pays off. And you notice it a lot, the guys who have worked on it and the guys who haven't. And I mean, it's crazy. I mean, also depending on the type of player you are, I mean, what types of situations you get yourself in, but mobility stuff and all that stuff, making sure that your joints are strong. And I mean, again, and that helps keeping guys healthy as well too. So all those small areas of the game are really what are the big areas for the game when you get up to the pro levels.
It's really good to hear you kind of mention all that stuff, because I know that stuff we obviously harp on a lot in the summer is hip strength, ankle strength, and then obviously your big lifts and all that kind of stuff too. But and it's cool to hear you say that you can really tell the difference of guys who've been working on that stuff and who haven't been working on that stuff especially once you get to that pro level. Because I mean, at your AAA junior levels, it may not be the cherry on top that's going to make a huge difference. It's important to be working on. But when the further up the rankings you go, it's those little things that make a bigger difference all the time at every level. It was what it sounds
like. Exactly. Yeah. And going back to the point, I mean, of saying any guy could skate up and down the ice. I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah. You can go to the gym every day and, 5 days a week and do your own workout. You can squat a lot, you can bench a lot, but I mean, those small areas and those different aspects of the game are really correlated. And, again, I mean, it really shows. I mean, the guys who work on it and the guys who don't. And I mean, I think it really pays off a lot more than you really expect it to. And especially when you get older and I mean, you really notice, I mean, the difference in your body when, I mean, from a day off or when you're treating it right and when you're not treating it right. I mean, you really notice it on the ice. So, I mean, it's all great that we work on it in summer, but I know everyone hates and no one likes it, but we all definitely appreciate it in the long run.
It's funny though, man. I think as you get older, like if we had said, or if Mitch had said to you, when you're 14 years old, hey, get this band and just move your hip up and down, get in a on your knees and your hands and move you're like, this is so stupid. It's ridiculous. Right. and now you're like, man, you're probably doing it on your own in your bed. Like, I got to get my hips going, Oh,
but exactly.
Yeah. For like young kids, it's like, I know this stuff sucks. I know stretching sucks. I know like ankle mobility sucks, or like going out on the ice and working on edging. Like, dude, seriously, we can touch a puck right now. I just want to take one-timers. But man, you focus on that stuff, and then it does pay off longer term. And I think it's so important for kids to hear it from guys like you at your level where you're playing pro and this stuff still matters to me. Like, I want to go home and I want to work on my edges because I got to get better in the corner so I can play one-on-one with that big defenseman. And I can, I think it's huge, man, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it's funny too. I look back on like old videos, like our in like peak days back at school, like grade 6, 7, or 8, and then
how many years is that now?
Oh my, I don't even want to know. I don't.
Sorry, I cut you off. Keep going.
Yeah. But like, I'm looking at videos from that, and we have there's videos from when we were in the gym, and I'm seeing myself when I'm like, I don't even know, 12 years old. I'm like, oh,
shorter than me.
Like, yeah, seriously, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Don't speak too soon. Maybe. Yeah, but I'm seeing those videos. I'm like, oh my god, like, dude, be better. Just be better. Like, think about how much further we would be. I'd be playing in the NHL if I was doing it back then.
You know what? I'm all about, like, I've got 2 young kids now, Roddy, obviously, and they're 9 and 7, a boy and a girl, and they're awesome. But I have a really hard time on just letting them. Like, I really do let them be kids. To your point, it's like, man, if you just if I could tell you something right now,
you could just take this in your brain right now,
dude, you're my daughter, son, like, you're doing it really good, but if you did this, but then I don't want to be that. So, but to your point, like at 12, 13, 14, I think it's really important for young kids and parents too to like get your kids around people that can hopefully help them, right? No matter where you are, like there's people in every area that are good strength coaches, good skills coaches, good, mental coaches, whatever that is. And get them around those people that'll send that message to them a little bit for you. So You don't have to be that crazy dad or mom, but you can get them to like, go around it. But for you, I love what you just said is like, man, if I knew like at 12, if I knew what I knew now, I would have been sick. You would have been first overall pick by, you know what I mean? Just like, but you're 12, so it's not going to happen that way. Right? But
I was going to say too, we almost, when we're introducing that stuff to kids a lot of times that are 12 or whatever, it's more about getting that in your mind. I mean, the difference of if you're like highly committed at 12 and 13 to that stuff, it may not make, and I don't even really want to say this, but the biggest difference later. But I do think it's really important to just start getting the ideas of the types of habits that need to be developed over time to be a pro when you get to that point. Like if those are all new concepts, like let's say you're, going into the O and you got to start taking a little bit more responsibility for yourself and you've never even grasp the concept that this might happen someday, how much harder that transition is going to be. And then the next transition to the AHL, the NHL, like if you've never thought about these things that differentiate, an average player from a pro, I think it would be a lot harder to make those transitions than if it's in there. You've been hearing about it since you're 12,
Exactly.
But
yeah, exactly. And honestly, for me too, you see there's still even a ton of young guys when you come in here. It's still the same thing. I mean, you're only really stretching or warming up if it's pregame and stuff, and that's fine too. I mean, guys could beat by their own drum and still turn out to be the best hockey player to ever play the game.
Totally.
I'm sure of it too. A lot of it's God-given too, but I mean, that's what I think too. I mean, a lot of the guys you're handed a lot of the tools, and I mean, you're given it quick. I think just all this other stuff that we're talking about now is pretty much what takes guys from being good to being great. I mean, I think it's just another tool you could add to the bag that makes you even better.
Totally.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Now you've been in the pro game for 2 years, which is young. Like you're still obviously like not a rookie, but you're closer to a rookie than a vet right now, right? So you're new to it, but who are some of the guys that you've seen at NHL training camps or even in the AHL that are pros? Because you see a massive difference. I'm sure Isaac, in my mind, you've become a pro over the last bunch of years. But you see guys that are like legit pros that like take it, like they're dialed in on their fitness or dialed in on how they're doing things and stuff like that. But who are some of the guys that have kind of impacted you a little bit, whether it's just seeing them at training camp and be like, man, look at this guy, or seeing them or playing with them throughout a season? But is there anyone that kind of stands out that's like kind of been, that consummate pro that you kind of would love to kind of get to?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a ton of guys, and we're lucky enough to even when I go back home in the summer, there's a ton of guys that can even just watch there and on their summer programs when, they're probably not even at 100% yet. They're still, given to 100%. But this year, like a guy like Cal O'Reilly, he was our captain there in Lehigh Valley, and you see him every day. He is a pro. He goes into the rink every day and takes care of his body to the max. He's 35 years old almost, and he's playing like he's my age. So and that's exactly why he survived in the game too, just because he takes care of his body, he takes care of everyone around him too. And that's kind of, I'm not the same player, but that's kind of a guy that I want to turn out to be when I'm that age too, and it's fun. It's fun to watch too, because he's a guy you want to be around and a guy you kind of want to go out there and perform for. Like, you don't want to make him upset or anything like that. Not even for the fact that he would kind of read me out, but just like more for the fact that, like, you know what, like I want to earn this for you too. Like, you're working that hard. I want to make sure you accomplish what you're setting out for, and I don't want to hold you back from that too. So I don't know. There's a lot of guys that I've gotten to see too, and guys at camp or. I got to spend a lot of time here in Philly while I was recovering too, so you get to see them at the start of the season, and guys, how they just take care of everyone around them and make sure that they're treating their body and they're treating themselves well too. But and then on top of that too, they still have a blast while doing it. You're playing in the NHL. You're pretty much living out your dream that you've been thinking about since you were 3 years old. So they're still having fun with it too. They take care of their bodies well too, but when they have their time, they enjoy it as well too. So it's so exciting. We're the luckiest people in the world to be able to do what we do for a living.
Totally. You know what, Ratty? That's something I noticed from like years back it continues to impress me is how well pros, like, and honestly in anything, can compartmentalize things a little bit, and they know when to work, when like the focus needs to be there, and then also know how to let loose and when to let loose. And I think that differentiation is so important, because there's also some that are on the extreme end and they have a hard time to relax as well, and they're always going, and sometimes that's their biggest roadblock to making it to the next level. And that balance of focus and drive and hard work, but then also hanging out with the guys and going out and having fun, I think is actually unbelievably important. So that's
sure, yeah.
Also, like, and Roddy, you talked to us a little bit too. I 100% agree with you, Mitch. And it's also a team bonding thing too, right? Like, but as a pro, man, you practice all week. You play 1, 2, 3 games in the week, and then you maybe have a day off. So you have a Sunday game, and then you have a day off Monday. Well, that's a green light, right? So for the boys, like, you want to decompress, you want to go out and have a good time, great. But there's also that whole team bonding thing too, where you like get a chance to like hang out with the boys and get to know the boys a little bit. I know it's a weird year with COVID for you guys this year, but like, let's say last year, even before that, like, what was it like for you coming as a rookie and getting a chance to go out with some of the boys and, like, you know, have your rookie party and things like that, and do, you know, stuff like that at the pro level? Like, what was that like?
Well, it's a whole new level. It's nothing you're really used to when you're coming out. I mean, you're going out as a 20-year-old with guys that are almost in their 30s or in their 30s, and guys who have seen everything that you could even think of. And I mean, it's a lot of fun too. And I mean, we just finished up our season 2, so we were able to enjoy ourselves and kind of, I mean, let loose a bit after a season and celebrate a little bit. And I mean, that's like you said too. It's for team bonding. I mean, you get to know, I mean, a lot of the guys, maybe guys that you wouldn't talk to as much during the year. You get to know, I mean, every little bit about them in those last couple of days you get to spend with them. I mean, the last week or so that we've had since we finished up, it's been a blast too. And it makes you more excited to come back next year, and you miss the group and when you go home. But you really do make, I mean, the biggest friendships out of, I mean, nights like that or days like that, where you guys kind of get away from the rink and get to know the guy you're really playing with. And I mean, in turn, I think it helps on the ice too. I mean, it makes you more excited to go to the rink every day. You're a little bit happier. You got a little bit more jump in your step, and makes you have a little bit more fun to go compete every night with that guy that, I mean, that you're a little bit closer with now, that you're actually buddies with.
100%, man. Oh, totally. I remember like some of the teams I played on, and, you know, you didn't really know, like, you knew guys from training camp and you hung out and you chirped each other in the locker room, whatever. And then you go for one night of, and I don't care if guys drink or not, it doesn't matter, but you go to school for a night of like just no coaches, no nothing, just go out with the team, hang out, have dinner. And the next day you come back, it's totally different. You have 17 stories that are going to be told because a bunch of crazy stuff happened. And like, right, it's like, it's the best, man. It's like, it's at the end of the season, like, for anyone who's never, you know, who's never played, even like junior, like, cause I'm sure you did it after, you know, and we didn't even touch on this, but like winning the Memorial Cup, which is unbelievable. But like at the end of the season, junior, college, pro, like you're on about a 4 to 10 day bender. Like it's you're going, you know, you could leave after 4 days, you could leave after 7 days, doesn't matter. I remember one year I was in college when we finished our season. I think we were like 6-7 days into a bender. And I'm out, boys. Like tomorrow I am leaving, and I pack my Jeep up and I'm like, I'm done. Like I can't do this anymore, man. But it was the best 7 days. Like we just, you know, you golfed, you hung out, you went to dinner, you like party at this guy's house. Like it was, so at the end of the season, you got that like time where you just, like you said, Roddy, you just kind of let loose, man. You do your exit interviews, everything's good. Would you like me? Yeah, okay, cool. All right. Right. And yeah. And that's a big part of like getting to know the boys and hanging out and doing all that fun stuff. And I think it's so important, you know. Yeah, it's awesome, man.
It's a blast. I mean, and it's good, like mental health wise too. I mean, you're grinding for however many months. I mean, this year obviously, that's what I was gonna say too. I'd be doing on a 10-day bender. We might have to cut ours down to like 2 or 3 because we didn't play as many games this year. But I don't know how much we actually earned. And then, yeah, but I mean. At the end of the year, I mean, after you're working so long for the whole year, you don't really get too much time off. You get I think a day a week or something like that, or I mean, depending on your schedule, maybe 2 days if you're lucky. But and those 2 days are obviously just recovery. You're pretty much staying at home, sitting on the couch all day, resting the body. But I mean, once the season's finally over, it's like a kid who just finished school and he's going on summer vacation and
Totally.
kind of get to enjoy themselves. So you get let loose and do what you need to. But I mean, and then once you get back to the rink, you're over that and you're like, all right, it's time to work again. Let's go. And you're excited to go. I mean, that's like I said.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you too, how nuts was it this year though, like playing the same team? Because you guys played, how many teams do you have in your division? You guys had what?
We played against 3 other teams this year: Hershey, Wilkes-Barre, and
3 total.
Like so you get to know the guys you're playing against too. And then if you have any bad blood in one of those early games, you're sticking it out for like 10 more games or something. Ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, by the end of it, I mean, you know exactly the lineup you're going up to play against. I mean, it helps. I mean, for myself at least, getting back into the swing of things. I mean, it helped playing against the same guys every night. I could compare myself to everyone on the ice and see how everyone's progressing, how I'm progressing, and like that kind of helped for me, I guess. But it definitely gets old going on the same road trips. We got lucky. I mean, all of our road trips are about an hour away, so it's all day trips, and still get to sleep in your own bed every night and. That definitely helped, but oh my god, playing against the same team every single night. I mean, have like three games in 5 days, all against the same team, and it's just like, oh my god, like at least change up the lineup or something like that. Get some new fresh faces in there. Like,
no, definitely, because and so Hershey ended up just like winning the title, right? Like they just won because how it worked. If anyone doesn't know, in the AHL, what happened was at the end of the regular season. They didn't have any Calder Cup or any playoffs, so it was just whoever was the first place in the division won the trophy, right? Basically, right? So Hershey ended up winning the what was the name of the trophy for you guys for your division? Because each division had their own trophy.
Yeah, the Pennsylvania Cup was the name of ours. Okay. But yeah, I think we had like a number of different breaks because of COVID too, and I think they ended up going by like winning percentage, and they came out on top, and they might have became like they finished second in the league or something, and they had a really strong team, and I mean we battled with them all year though, so I mean that's what is exciting for us. It's great. It's awesome if you get to play against one of the best teams in the league all year. I mean, it really helps you boost your game up a little bit too, and they're obviously tough to play against. Blazer, you would know. I mean, you know a lot of the guys there too. And they've got a strong organization, so that was awesome to get to play against them all year. But they were a tough team to play, and I know we had a lot of COVID breaks. We lost a lot of games, and unfortunately, but they came out on top of us. Unfortunately, I think we played them one last time. I think the second last week of the year, and they took us. I think they beat us like 1 or 2-0 with like an empty netter or something. I don't know. So it was all. I mean, all the games were close this year. Something maybe 1 or 2 got out of hand, but both our team and their team were really strong this year. So it was exciting.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Very good. I had one quick question that I'll kind of. I don't want to keep you forever, buddy. I know you got to go. You got to get the wrenches out and fix your AC and stuff. So. But if you're like, now that you've been at, like, obviously as a youngster, you watch players and stuff. So I want to ask you this kind of a 2-parter, but when you were young growing up, who was someone in the NHL that you really looked up to? Like you were kind of wanted to, obviously I love guys. I was a smaller guy, so I like guys, old school guys like Cliff Ronning or like a Matt Snaslin or like Paul Correa, like guys that are, smaller or whatever, right? But like for you, who did you like when you were younger? And then now that you're playing pro and you're kind of in that mix, because I think I'm going to assume your mentality changed a little bit where like when you were like younger, like I want to be, let's just say Bob Probert, and then Rob Probert, and then you get like, I'm not really that guy. So now I want to be this guy. Right. So what were you like as a youngster? And then as you got older and now you're playing pro, like who are guys that not, I don't want to say you want to be like them, but you like love their game or you want to like, I want to emulate my game a little bit after that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, growing up, obviously any kid loved watching Sidney Crosby.
For sure.
He's the best player, one of the best players to ever play the game. Just the way he controls the game, controls the puck, and some of the things he does with it are just like, it's fun to watch, And now when I'm watching hockey, I mean, I'm usually watching the Flyers play, and I'm going to do a lot of video on guys who are up there, and they have a few, big guys like myself. So I watch a ton of Kevin Hayes, just the way he holds the puck, and I mean, he's a massive guy like myself too, but he uses his body so well. I mean, he'll go into scrums and just like stick his ass into someone, and he just keeps the puck for I mean, 2 minutes in the offensive zone, just does whatever he wants with it. And then on top of that, he's able to pair that with like great hands and a great release, and he finds guys on the ice so well, again, because he creates time for himself. But and then watching JVR sit around the net and just touch every puck. I mean, it's insane. I mean, I got to work with him a little bit in camp at the start of the year, and I was watching him take rims on the wall, and he's got that big paddle. Like guys will throw like a grenade at him around the wall and he just knocks it down flat in like half a second. I'm like, how do you even do this? And I mean, he's been working on it all his life, but I'm like, these are guys that I love to just be around, to watch what they do in the off season or what they do in practice to get ready for a game. Like, that's like you're a little kid out there too, again, watching them. You're like, I've been watching you for so long, and then you get to get out there and you're like, this is exciting. And it's even more exciting because I'm like, okay, like I see him do something, then I go out and I do the same thing, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm almost ready to go. You know, like this, it's exciting.
Yeah.
To be honest. Yeah, but
it is funny though. Like, and I'm sure sometimes you like look down at your jersey, you're like, oh, I'm one of them. Like, you're kind of just like, oh wait, I'm supposed to be in this drill, because it is cool. Like, and then you see when you get the chance to see JVR or Hazy working on stuff in practice or doing things, you're like, oh, okay, I get why they're here. Because sometimes you watch them on TV and you'll hear things on Twitter and whatever, like this guy sucks, he's a bum, and you get a firsthand view. Like, man, like even a guy like, so I'll give you an example because we're in Ontario, but Nylander, everyone hates Nylander, he sucks. I'm like, that guy is unbelievable, man. His skill set is gross. Like, he's so good. And I put a couple clips out like over the course of the season. I'm just like, I don't love the way Nylander plays. Like, he's not a gritty guy. He's not like, that's fine. But his skill set is so good. Like, there's a reason he's playing in the NHL, and he's very good in the NHL. But, you watch guys like Hazy and JVR, sometimes they get a bad rap, but they're good, man. And then when you watch those details in practice, you just gain that extra respect that we don't see. Like, people that
don't see it through the TV, like, yeah,
you know what I mean? We don't get to, like, Mitch and I don't get to see like the day-to-day practice stuff, but you got a chance, you get a chance to be there a bit, and you're like, okay, like, okay, this makes sense why he's so good, like, yeah,
exactly, yeah. It's so cool too. Like, you see any day, like, oh, someone's getting slandered for something, like, oh, they're you go on any social media, it's like, oh, this guy's terrible now, he's brutal, like, I don't know why we even have this guy in the organization or something. I'm like, you go and watch him, like, this guy is like one of the best players I've ever seen at his role, like at what he's doing. And I'm like, and people think he's not very good. I'm like, this guy, he's like one of the best players I've ever seen live. Like, and I'm like,
yeah.
But it's again, like you said too, you don't get to see a lot, the details on TV, and then I mean, like, my mom would definitely watch a game a little bit different than I would watch a game. Like, she just like, oh, it's going up and down the ice. I'm like, oh, like, this guy's really gonna play like this, and it's So I mean, when you're watching it from the outside compared to right up live, and you get to see all the tiny little details, you really see why these guys are here and why they've earned what they've got, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do too. So it's exciting again, like I said.
Oh, that's cool. That's so cool. Actually, I'm going to we'll finish up. If you're cool with this, we'll go like another 5-6 minutes. I just want to, or longer, depends. I always,
yeah, whatever works. I got that. That's all right.
Okay, good. So I was talking to a young guy overseas. I was telling Mitch about this today, and I was really impressed, man. He's a junior player he's a Finnish boy, so from Finland, but plays over in Norway. He's a junior player, 17, 18, but he's dialed in on his development and stuff like that. And the question he had for me is like, I work on skills like stick handling, shooting, pass, skating, all that stuff. I work on all that stuff on the ice. I work on an off ice, all that. But how do I directly translate it to gameplay? Like, how do I effectively, translate that over to my games? Because like and he's right. Like, you shoot pucks in the driveway, you stick handle on out in the court, and it's all good. And then you go to a game and you're like, oh my God, I'm in scramble. Like I'm in a tough one. I'm stuck, So how do you translate that stuff over to gameplay? And I thought for a young guy, this guy's again, 17, 18, I was like, that's a really thoughtful question. I'm like, because that is like, sounds like a really simple question, but no, how do you translate the skills that you learn to the on ice play? Now I've got answers to this, or like my own answers, not saying they're right or wrong, but I'd love, and I was talking to Mitch about it, so I didn't have Mitch answer this earlier. I just said, hey, think about it. I'm throwing you on the spot a little bit, Ratty, but I'll get Mitch to go first. But how do you take that stuff that guys learn? And for Mitch, I want you to think about this. We talked about this already, but think about this a little bit on the off ice piece, because guys do squats, and guys hate squats, or guys, leg day sucks, but why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Right. And I think the off ice component on the workout side also translates to on ice. You know what I mean? And Roddy, you think about this, if I'm working out hard, I'm working my legs, I'm working my core, well, that's going to help me be better in battles. That's going to help me be better in stronger on my feet, contact, all that stuff. Right. So for Mitch, I'll go to you first, Mitch, on just that question. So how do you translate those skills that we learn, and we'll go just right now for fitness skills and the workout components to on ice, and how do you kind of relate that for players where this is why we're doing this, and this is how it's going to help you or impact you in a game?
Okay, so there's basically 5 different areas that we'll look at really closely. So structural balance, strength, power, speed, agility, and then metabolic conditioning, so your energy systems. Now, all players really have to understand and answer is, are you gassing out at the end of shifts? Are you starting the game with lots of energy, finishing the game with a lot less energy? Are you missing, are you losing battle or races to the puck? Are you losing battles in the corner? And then what we can do is structure a program that is going to cover structural balance, strength, power, speed, and energy systems in a way that's going to fit the deficits in your game. So if you're someone who's I got gas all day, I can play 10 games in a row and I'm totally fine, but I can never win a race to the puck. So it's okay, so we need to maybe build a foundation of strength and then translate that into speed, or maybe that person's already strong and we just need to hammer on speed training. Whereas there may be someone else, and this is a pretty common one, who's really strong, maybe fairly powerful. So power doesn't necessarily mean speed. And then they have, let's say they're really strong, they're relatively powerful, and they're gassing out. And by the time it gets to the second period, they're gassed. So maybe their aerobic energy system is trash. We might do some aerobic testing, see where their VO2 max is at. And then we can say, okay, well, what we have to do is build your aerobic system. And so many people in hockey, and there's a lot of truth to this, but they believe that you only need to do interval training, which the game itself is largely interval based. We go hard, a little slower, hard, a little slower, then sit on the bench for a bit, hard, a little slower. But the aerobic system is very, very important for recovery between shifts and recovery between periods, and even recovery between days and games.
I love it.
So if their aerobic system is trash, then they're going to maybe show up for the first period and then fizzle out by the third. So we look at those 5 different kind of components of fitness, and then how what areas that player needs to prioritize. So we always work on all 5 areas: structural balance, strength, power, speed, and energy systems. But the amount of emphasis or what we prioritize is going to change based on what that player is feeling and how they're performing in game. So if someone's always getting banged up, then we're going to focus a lot on structural balance.
Yeah.
And for a lot of players that come to our training center for the first time, especially when they've been playing pro, sometimes we'll go an entire off season of structural balance, because they're strong enough to play pro. They're fast enough to play pro, and they've got the gas tank to play pro, but they're getting, sometimes getting banged up. And there's different things. Like if you take a shot off the finger, or if you fall on your rib cage, those aren't things you can necessarily train. You can't train your finger to be stronger, to not snap when you take a slap shot, from Weber off of it.
Yeah.
But if someone's just slipping and tweaking an ankle or tweaking a knee, then we need to spend more time on structural balance. And a lot of times at a pro level, when guys are coming in, a lot of times that's where we have to actually put a lot of our energy, because again, they've already proved they've got the strength, power, and conditioning to play the role that they're going to play at that level. But maybe they're missing games because they're banged up.
That's awesome, man. I love it. And I think sometimes peeling back the layers of the onion, you know what I mean? So I can't score. Okay, great. Well, okay, so what's happening right now? Well, every time I shoot, I'm getting a stick in the way, or the goalie's already set. Okay, well then let's go back a little bit more. So what's happening then? When you catch it, you're stick handling, right? So now you're wasting time stick handling, and now the goalie's getting set and the defenseman's getting a stick in your way. Okay, so we got to teach you how to get a pass and shoot quicker. And that'll, you know what I mean? So what you're saying, Mitch, is looking at what are your inefficiencies, and then let's like go back from there and figure out how we can like reprogram, retrain you to be better in those situations. So I think, that's awesome, man. I love it. Robbie, what do you think of, so when you think of like, and I guess just really quick to like reiterate the question, but like, how do you translate skills training? So you're shooting pucks at home, doing all this stuff. How do you translate that from at home shooting pucks in your driveway to, all right, effectively scoring, in junior, minor hockey, OHL, NHL, whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, first, Mitch, all that stuff too, like that's exactly it. That's just go back to the basics, make sure you're prepared, I guess, if anything. Like, that's what I was saying before. When I was back, when I was like 12, 13 years old, I probably would have like just brushed off everything that you said. But now that I'm like listening to it, I'm like, that's for sure. Like, that's exciting to me almost now.
You're taking notes.
Actually,
you're gonna look at
actually.
You're gonna listen
I'm on
to
my
this
laptop right now listening to it.
We'll be back in action soon.
But for me though, I mean, you prepare yourself for so long and you can do it. If you do it in a practice 100 times, then you get into a game and you kind of choke up in a situation. But for myself, I found out this year, again, going through adversity and having to find my game, not playing for over a year and then playing again, it's just a level of comfort out there. I was always so antsy and I was so like worried to make a mistake out there that I wasn't playing my game at all. And then we had like a COVID break this year and I came back and I had like a week to kind of think about my game because we were sitting at home and I just like I kind of sat back and I was like, I'm overthinking everything. I'm going into battles like trying to like almost do exactly what they're telling me to do in practice, but I'm not even reading the play. And I'm thinking more about the details of the game than the overall goal of the game, which is to score goals, put up points, and win the hockey game, put up more goals than they do, and make sure they don't score on you while you're out there. And I was thinking more about the small details of the game rather than what the overall goal was. And I wasn't letting myself actually play the game in the moment. And I think those things you work on, like you'd say working on stick handling or whatever you need to do in the summer and you're skating and you can't translate into a game. It's almost just kind of like just relax when you're out there and let your body do the work. Because once you get your brain too involved and your brain starts to take over and you start to stress out there, you start gripping your stick a little bit too tight and you're not doing the same things you would do in practice. I mean, you go into a practice and you're not as I shouldn't say you're not as dialed in as you would be in a game, but you're definitely a little bit more relaxed out there because there's not going to be a guy coming up your backside and trying to kill you when you're going into a corner or something like that. But when you can play like that, but you have the fundamentals to, escape situations like that in a game, that's when you're kind of at your best, for me at least, when you're kind of relaxed out there and you kind of let your body take over and all the work that you put in, you're literally just letting it show when you get into those situations and you treat those situations like you would in a practice.
I love it. Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think one thing you said too is, and I think I fault coaches, and I'll put myself in that category a little bit, but like we program players too much, right? So like I know in the AHL, because I've been behind the scenes in the AHL, is very systematic, right, Ratty? Like it's very, this is our D zone, this is our O zone, this is our, you guys go through this like it's like robotic almost, right? You go through all this for the O zone forecheck and how you're going to play the neutral zone, how you're going to play in the D zone. And for guys like you who are very skilled, you need a bit of a blank canvas sometimes to make your own plays, or at least a leash long enough that if you mess up here, you're not sitting. You know what I mean? Because and I don't know the situation you were in, but it's just for coaches out there, I think it's like let players play sometimes. Like give them structure. Structure is huge. I think you need to have structure, especially at your level and high levels. But also like you might get the puck on the boards and the play is like kick it to the middle, but that guy's covering the middle. So now maybe you hang on to it for a second, make a play at the D and then kick it out. You know what I mean? Like, so giving that player a little bit more of a longer leash in order to be able to make those kind of plays that are going to be more suited to his game, and I think that's massive. And the way I took the question too is, again, how do you translate skills that you learn and that you're working on in your driveway, all that stuff, and put them into games? I think one of the biggest things, and this is for me more on the skills coaching side of things, is when you're practicing shooting, don't just rip 100 pucks at the net. Like when you're ripping pucks at the net, look away. And Roddy, you know this, man, like how deceptive is the game now? When you look at high-end players, like those guys and you're this guy too, like high-end guys, like you're not making a pass and like telegraphing your pass. You're looking away and then throwing that puck across, right? So practice that and put yourself in those situations because it's not hard. It's not easy. It's not easy to like look off a pass and shoot, right? Or look off a shot and make a pass. Like it's not easy to do that. So if you can practice that, then when you get in those situations, hopefully you got those habits and that memory down a little bit. But then for coaches, put players in those situations in practice where they can practice that kind of stuff. And I guess a question I have for you, Roddy, is how often did you guys do like skill sessions or drills with your coaches where you guys were put in those situations where you're down low on a one-on-one, or you're shooting pucks in traffic, or you're shooting pucks with a bit of static on you, like someone's giving you a little bit of pressure? Like, were you guys put in those situations a little bit throughout the year in practice?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, a lot of the stuff in pro hockey is mostly system stuff. I mean, you don't have too much time to practice just because of the loaded game schedule. So during the season, you're a lot of the times you're on your own to work with the coaches one-on-one or with a small group of guys to work on those areas of your game. So, and that's it's kind of exactly how it should be. I mean, it's up to you to take yourself to that next level, and you should be working on those areas of the game on your own. And you shouldn't need anyone else to tell you to do that stuff. So, I mean, when we're in practice, you want to put yourself, like you said, in those situations that you would be in a game. So, I mean, like you said, not just shooting 100 pucks in the net. I mean, put yourself in a different situation that you might be coming in, whether you're, below the bottom of the circle or something like that in the offensive zone, trying to pick a corner above the goalie's shoulder, something like that. I mean, take 100 shots from there, or put a stick in front of you that you got to shoot around, or anything like that. Make it a little more game-like. So when you do get in those situations in a game, you can get a shot off quick, or you can get around the guy in a way that you have before. I mean, you feel comfortable in those situations. So, yeah, like you said, a lot of the repetition and kind of teaching yourself, what it takes to be successful in situations like that, it goes a long way.
Oh, that's great, man.
It's like you said too, when you're doing that stuff in practice, I love what you said. Like if you prepare properly, once you're in a game, you can let your brain kind of just shut up. And then if you practice that stuff often enough, then it just flows. You're in that like flow state, right? And the more applicable I think your practices are to game situations, the easier it probably is to get into that flow state where you can just let your body take over, and you've done all these things before, and you just play the game on game day.
Exactly, yeah. And again, like we were pretty much been mentioning, just to sum everything up that we've been talking about for the past hour, it's all just preparation stuff. Like preparing your body in the summer, preparing your brain for a game. I mean, the preparation is the biggest part about it, I think, for myself. I mean, you walk into a game and you're prepared, you're ready to go. You can literally just get out there and play hockey. You don't have to stress about anything, and it makes it a lot less stressful. You're having fun out there, you're enjoying yourself, and then you get a lot more success that way, in my eyes. And I've had a lot of time. I've worked with a ton of guys, in this organization too, that have been like exactly that. They've been great for me to kind of open up my eyes to a lot of these things too, and allow me to kind of find my way. I know it's been a long 2 years for myself since I've started pro, and I figured things out day by day. And now I'm finally getting to the point where I'm like, okay, like I kind of think I found my game a little bit more, and I found how I can channel that every single night. So I'm getting ready to get to that top level and be there consistently, and not just play there, but actually make a big impact for them up there too.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I know, it's great, man. This has been awesome. I really appreciate it, Roddy. And obviously you're a guy that works hard, and it's been really cool. I think, Mitch, I'm kind of speaking for you, but you can jump in on this too, but it's been really cool to see you from really 12, 13 years old to where you're at now, and it's awesome, man. And you put in a ton of work and to get where you are, and we love it. So I really appreciate coming on. It's been awesome, man. It's been really cool. And even just to hear you talk, and it's cool as players get older, how they look back on things, or even how they see things now. You know what I mean? It's
so cool to hear, actually. Yeah.
You're still so young, but and I'm not saying that in a rude way. Just you're still a young guy, young pro, but it is cool how you look already. You're like, oh man, if I had done that differently, whatever, right? Like it's cool, really cool.
Yeah, exactly. I'm laughing now. You're calling me a rookie still too, but guys are freaking playing in the OHL. Like my roommate here, he's like 4 years younger than me, 3 years younger than me, and I'm like, this is my second year. Like, are you kidding me? Why do I feel so old already?
Yeah. Hey, does he have a Memorial Cup ring though?
No, I let him know every day too.
Buddy, take the ring out. Get your mom to send a picture of it. Come on now.
And I let everyone know every day. I let everyone know every day.
I love it. Love it. Well, Roddy, buddy,
thanks so much,
appreciate
guys,
it. Go ahead, Mitch.
Great to see you.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah, I'll
awesome.
see you guys
It was
soon,
great
though.
to see you guys. Looking forward to catching up in person when we can do that.
Yeah, man. It'll be awesome, man. It'll be really So yeah, thanks a lot, Roddy. It was awesome. Mitch, once again, awesome to have you on. You're always a great host with me. So thank you very much. And
It's always fun.
All right, we'll see you, boys.
Hey, thanks a lot to you guys. See you guys soon.
Yeah, take care. See you, Roddy.
All right.
See you.